it's so nice to see you again virtually. You're on Music and Chat with Shueh-li Ong, and it's a good morning from me to you in sunny Singapore. Oops, where's my hand? Here we go. Please say hi in the live chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, and don't be backward and coming forward. And remember to put any questions you may have in this same live chat so that we may attend to them as the stream moves along. I want to say hi to our friends out there. I see a handful of you. When I say, I remember English school. The difference between some and several is that in some you can hold it in one hand or count them in one hand. Several would be beyond one hand of fingers. So there's some of you out there. Please let us know where you are joining us from, and you know where the live chat is. So we have a special guest today from Hong Kong, which happens to be in the same time zone as Singapore, so that's really great for us, the guest and me. And our guest is Dominic Au, Senior Product Design Manager of Ashun Sound Machines, and he'll be performing an improvised but pre-programmed piece just for you. So without further ado, let's give it up for Dominic. Hey Dominic, thanks so much. That was real cool. I might also say awesome. That was some awesome performance.
Thank you very much, Shelly. It's awesome to play that early.
Oh, I know. Boy, you must have had a big breakfast.
While I had breakfast.
So everyone knows Dominic's tuning in or joining us at least from Hong Kong, and that would be 9:37 a.m. right now, both in
Yep,
Hong Kong and Singapore.
yep, we're in
So,
sync.
so let's get on with the interview questions.
Cool.
So, as I said earlier on, Dominic is a senior product and design manager of Ashun Sound Machines, and they were founded in 2019, if I'm not wrong, and they're wholly owned by Medeli and OBM, ODM, and OEM company with over 4 decades in the electronic musical instrument business.
Yep.
So, you were, prior to joining them, you were product specialist for Focusrite before Medley, and you joined Medley in which year again?
In 2016,
2016. And when did you form Ashun Sound Machines?
well, technically we started the idea from like 2016 and 2017, and we actually started to work on it in 2017, and it is announced in 2019. So technically, well, published in 2019, but we started a few years earlier with the project.
Gotcha. So we're curious, how did the idea for ASM come about? And to the viewers out there, I say ASM to stand for Ashun Sound Machines, naturally. So tell us, Dominic.
Well, it's a funny story because at first, Medeli Electronics hired me to work on their current products, like electronic drums, electronic keyboards, and I love synths myself, and I try to push that. Oh, maybe we should consider doing synthesizers, and I did some market research and to propose, and well, I'm glad that they thought that was feasible, and we started to evaluate how we can use our current resources in Medeli Electronics to make that happen. Because it is a company with that many experiences already, and we have the manufacturing experience, we have the R&D experience, so we could borrow resources from different offices, different teams, and we got to create a team to work on that. And at first, we built a synth engine in a box, and that was the very early prototype, and we started to evolve from that point.
So some people probably think, oh, Ashun, that's an interesting name. Did that name come from?
Oh, that's a great question. Ashun was the nickname of the founder of Medeli Electronics, George Chang, and it is a tribute to him and legacy of his philosophy to, like, in making musical instruments. So we'd like to make affordable musical instruments that can talk to musicians and lead them to express themselves freely. So
Ah,
we took that philosophy and make it happen with Ashun Sound Machines
all right.
further.
So what were, if you can recall, or if there were any kind of specific goals for the company that were derived from this philosophy? You know, like you went checklist 1, we gotta have this.
Um, well, it's interesting because we it's not like that we have a very perfect plan to work on it. It's like step by step. Okay, so we're on this right now. Okay, so we will try to release these 2 models right now, and oh, the market response was great. Okay, let's do 2 more to fulfill more needs of different kinds of musicians or sound designers and artists. Yeah, it is a step-by-step process, but of course, those were discussed early. But since it was a kind of new brand, new branch company, we can't make a too long planning before like reevaluate what we did.
Did you have at least one goal in mind that you started with as a team, as a group, if you recall? Or maybe that was yours?
Well, make musical instruments that people like would
Oh,
use.
well, obviously. You won't make it so they won't like it and you become very selfish. And this is mine, I made it for myself.
No.
I wanted to show a couple of pictures that you have so generously loaned to me. And the first one is of your office at Focusrite, which was quite humble. Look at his humble desk. And then, boom, it exploded to this Toys R Us type room at Medeli. This is Dominic's room, of course. And he was kind enough to point out to me that a prototype PCB of the Hydrasynth is resting on top of the OB Matrix 12, if you guys can see it.
Yeah.
So,
And
they,
interesting story about that, because it's
Okay.
kind of an open office where I was in the office part before, and I gotta hide stuff because we have guests from time to time. Okay, we have guests. We're gonna cover it up. You know, we ASM, we kept it really secret before 2019. So even my friends didn't know what I was doing over that few years. And that when it was October and after the NobCon, they were like, "What? You were working on a synthesizer?"
wow, that must be so cool to have like a secret project.
It was, but it is kind of hard to not tell anyone of what I was doing.
Wow, you're good. It would have come out from my mouth already. I'm not sure how good I am at hiding secret projects. Okay. So I just want to make sure. So if you need a copy of this picture, you can't get it except through Dominic. Okay. So let's move on. I had a few questions under the category of product design backstory. And we had talked about this during the prep session, but I thought it would be good for you to tell the viewers how ASM's website describes your synths as both a sound designer's dream synth and a performing musician's ideal. So talk me through what this means to you.
Well, our team consists of people who perform, who are musicians, who also do sound designing, and it is kind of like we're trying to achieve what we wanted to achieve with these new musical instruments that might not be possible before, or you have to do it with separate devices. And well, of course, one aspect is trying to do what we wanted to do, but of course we have to also know what the market wants or what the people want now. And there are some keywords I think is important when we're trying to create such musical instruments, such as like it has to be intuitive, has to be expressive. The experience should be interactive, and the good thing about hardware synthesizers is tactile. So you got the tactile aspect, and you have to make it meaningful, and it has to be approachable and inspiring. So people, like Glenn always said, people walk in the store and how it inspire them and make them want to create sounds or music immediately. That's important. Without reading the manuals, they have to know immediately know how to play with it. Like at least the main features. Like a kid goes into the toy store and try to get some toys to play with it. If it's so hard, they would just leave, right? Similar.
It's
Yep.
true. I understand what you're saying. So it's interesting. I'm gonna go off on a tangent. It's interesting how, during the analog days or even the start of the digital days, we saw synth designs with all the knobs and sliders and adjusters, I call them adjusters on the front panel of the synth, and then we went through a phase where all these things started to disappear, and they were all, you had one knob or one fader with multiple assigned features and functions. And I know there's some people who didn't like that very much because they had to dig through, press this plus that and then turn it
Exactly.
to get to program this part of your sound. But then I noticed that the preference for everything displayed on the top come back to instrument design. And we're talking about synthesizers. Do you think that will stay with us for quite some time? Do you think that's a preferred layout, or do you think we will go back into the hide everything under the hood?
Well, I think it really depends on the target audience we're towards to. Say, performing musicians, they want good expressiveness and have some immediate controls. They might not need too many controls at a stage. For sound designers, it has to be intuitive and not get into the flow, not get into the way of your flow. Like when you have something in mind, you can do that immediately without like, okay, page 3 and then this access this page and then to try to find it. Like that would make it hard to do the sound design process smoothly. It is a creative process, so I think it is important to deliver it smoothly.
Very good point. Sold.
Well, but it doesn't mean that. I mean, each instrument has its own characteristics. It doesn't mean that is right or the other is wrong. It's about taste, your personal taste, or how you prefer to interact with the instrument.
That's another good point. Another item sold. I did dig up, speaking of releasing the first Hydrasynth at NobCon in 2019. By the way, NobCon is marketed as the world's only synth convention. It could be the oldest or the main synth convention. I looked online to see if there were other synth conventions with an international target. I couldn't quite find one, but someone probably in the audience will know and put it in the live chat and let us know. But I did find a picture of Dominic with the Hydrasynth at NobCon. This is in 2019. You should see it very soon on the stream. Again, there's a lag. Oh, that's quite a long lag. Oh, here we are.
Oh, cool.
So,
Yeah.
what part of your experience, Dominic, as a performing musician, because you're talking about, meaningful, expressive performance where you can interact with your partner, right? Because your instrument is like your partner. It's just that you're doing a lot of the twirling and the pulling like a
Yep.
dancer. What part of your experience as a performing musician and synth enthusiast informed its blueprint? Like which part of you was part of the pool of suggestions of features and functionalities? And I know that you worked on it, while you're still at, Medeli. But so we're curious, when we see the Hydrasynth, which part will say, oh, that's Dominic's fault. In a good way. Oh, that's Dominic because he likes to do this and that.
Well, the module select section is where I started, like the whole signal flow idea, because I was thinking it's kind of hard for beginners to learn sometimes, and the plugins are very powerful nowadays, but sometimes overwhelming to beginners. Where should I start? And hey, what's that shape doing to that layer of sound? And it could be confusing. And well, everyone started from that point. So I was thinking if we can really lay out the signal flow on the panel, which you access them by the buttons in the signal flow. That should be intuitive, and we have to have a control section to pair with it. So you press the module and you access the parameters without too many pages manual diving. So it allows you to quickly navigate and also have some muscle memories, like in fixed positions of, okay, I want to access envelope 3, you just press that. Or page 2 of it, double press it, and you can get to page 2 of it. So it should be a fluid control flow. Yep. Yeah, that's where we started when we're trying to come up with the UI on the hardware. And then based on that, we started to develop more, like add more direct buttons and filter controls. And that was Glenn's idea on putting more arpeggiator, interesting parameters there. And yeah, we like to dream. And hey, we talked to the engineers, how about adding more parameters to the arpeggiator? Hey, how about modulating the arpeggiator? Hey, how about modulating almost all parameters in the arpeggiator? And it developed more and more, and that's the Hydrasynth you see today.
That's interesting. So speaking of your CEO, Glenn Darcy, who had worked with Arturia and Archive prior, how much of his knowledge then impacted the product design or went into this pool of ideas, if you're able to share with us at all?
Well, I'd say we're blessed that we had him to join us, because he is a really experienced guy in this field, in this industry. He has such deep knowledge in it. And for those who don't know, he worked with Akai before and with Arturia, and there are a lot of products that he made, and you might have one or two in your room already. And so back in 2017, I think that our boss got to talk to him about our idea of making a synthesizer, and he saw the potential of it. I think he tried our engine, so he decided to join us, and that was very key to our success. Kind of success. At least we see our synth on the hands of musicians that we admire. That's what I think personally. So he joined and initially gave us ideas. Say, you guys have been manufacturing keys for so many years. Maybe you guys should do polyphonic aftertouch. And that's where we started to investigate and try to use the existing resources and build upon it. And a lot of tweaks from him that he because he had experience with the market, and he knows that would sell, and okay, you can tweak it that to look more attractive, something like that. And because both of us love synths, and we actually put a lot of tributes to the synthesizers, and for all synth lovers out there might already figure it out by themselves. Oh, that looks like, that seems like that functions this. Oh, that's great, moved here. And we hear a lot of that, and we love hearing stories from our users and see how they use with it. And it is always interesting to look at the new things they come up with.
That's interesting. Viewers out there, if you're an owner of a Hydrasynth, or if you have interesting Hydrasynth story to tell, please share it with us. Dominic and I would be curious to know of your musical journey with the Hydrasynth. Dominic, you mentioned earlier about how you worked with the engineers, and you pleaded to them, why making this out? Oh, please put that in. Do you have like an interesting story to tell, an anecdote of, let's say, a debate with the engineers about your group's vision versus the issues they have come up with, and how you resolved it?
Well, that happens all the time. Well, it always has to be a balance of the resources and how many features we want, or how deep we want the features to be. So we still have to balance. Excuse me. we still have to balance that out to make sure it works uh, with the stability and to deliver the sound quality that we want. So there's a framework already. So we worked based on that, and we try to fill up the computing resources. Well, that's the good thing about digital synthesizers. You know how much you can add, and we kept adding, and then squeezing the engineers.
Did you have to buy them a lot of lunches or dinners, or bring them presents?
Well, I do bring some snacks from Hong Kong to them sometime. While our main R&D team is based in Shanghai, so we're kind of in different places. We have a team in Shanghai. We have people in Zhuhai, and of course in the States. Yeah.
So your main production area is are split between these two?
Mm, well, the Medeli Electronics headquarters in Hong Kong, but really involved with ASM, that's me. And the
Okay.
operations kind of in mainland China, and our CEO is in the States.
Okay.
And we have a team of people in the US right now as well. So we work
Got it.
closely together. But well, of course, there's a time zone difference, but it works kind of well, interestingly. So well, I talk about synths in midnight, and they talk about it at their night when they're having dinner.
I understand. So, the name for the synth, how did that name come about? Who first proposed the idea for Hydrasynth? And someone said, no, it should be something else.
Oh. Glenn said that coming up with a name for a product is the hardest in the development process.
Oh, he said that?
It's funny. um, yeah, that's kind of it did take us some time to come up with a name. So at first, I think I come up with Hydro. Then we were trying to tweak the name and come up with variations, and finally we decided to use the Hydrasynth.
Is there a meaning to it for you? Or it just sounded good? Or it's got to do with water or something? Or maybe, protect the environment? I don't know.
Well, at
Or,
first, like Hydro, like hopefully fluid-like engine.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Wow, interesting. So tell us if you're able to, maybe the features of the first prototype. How much of the final design actually resemble, your first prototype?
Mm, well, actually, the most things we came up with ended up within the Hydrasynth right now. Actually, we didn't really
Oh.
cut stuff away. So,
Oh,
because
wow.
I think thanks to Glenn's vision, he made that we don't have to get into wrong ways too many wrong ways throughout the development, and
Oh.
even the prototypes is like a prototype of certain parts. Like we have a
Oh.
PCB board to test testing the buttons, or I have a keypad just to test the aftertouch, the polyphonic aftertouch action, and I have to work with the people in Zhuhai a lot on the polyphonic aftertouch. It was a long process because that was kind of a new thing, but not that new to, but well, new to the guys who make keypads there. But it's great that they did catch up well, and we got to the point where we're satisfied with the touch of the keypad. And that touch was actually kind of translated from my experience at Glenn's studio. So I visited his studio, and I got to play his Prophet T8. And
Ooh.
he said, Dominic, this is the polyphonic aftertouch touching that we want. Memorize it and bring it to Zhuhai.
Gulp. Pressure's on.
well, the whole process is actually very enjoyable. So I'm just doing what I love doing, and yeah, that's designing synthesizers and seeing so many musicians use it in interesting ways. That's whole thing is really enjoyable anyway.
So speaking of polyphonic aftertouch, and we kind of broached the idea of talking about it a bit more during the prep session. Most of us are familiar with aftertouch, but a polyphonic aftertouch is a little rare, obviously. And Hydrasynth, you mentioned, has its own proprietary polytouch key bed. It's marketed as having MPE capabilities. And on Music and Chat, this live stream series, we have featured MIDI polyphonic expression instruments before. And for those who might be new to it or need a reminder, they are multidimensional controllers that have surfaces that, unlike a traditional keyboard, but rather a continuous piece, and multiple parameters of each note or sound can be controlled per finger via 4 degrees. So 4 degrees of control pressure, that's standard for all aftertouch. And then there's the vertical movement, or up and down the key bed vertically. And then what I call a roll, a right roll and a left roll, a la boat term, when you roll the boat right and left. I wanted to play a quick clip of a video of Dominic demonstrating his use of the MPE mode in the Hydrasynth via Ableton Live for recording and playback purposes. I think that's what it was. So let's do that.
Live. Turn local off. Turn aftertouch on and turn MPE on in the Hydrasynth system setup menu. The ribbon strip gives you an extra control of pitch in MPE mode when it's set to the pitch bend mode. Make sure to select MPE on the second drop-down menu. Select the audio input channels that receive audio from the Hydrasynth. Now the Hydrasynth is integrated into the live set. Now we can get creative on the recorded automation envelopes. We can layer another instrument by feeding the same MIDI clip to another MPE device.
So, well, the clip's still playing, but we're waiting for it to be done. I will get on with the questions. I'd like to be a bit more familiar with Hydrasynth and how it acts, or its MPE mode. In the video, and since I've never played a Hydrasynth before and I squinted to try and see all the details that you're doing, I do see that you use the combination of the aftertouch with the ribbon controller.
Yeah.
I think I saw. Could you describe to me how you are able to activate or evoke the 4 degrees of activation, that an MPE controller would typically have? So pressure naturally, and vertical, I assume maybe with the ribbon controller. How about the right and left roll idea?
Well, there are three dimensions. So 4 parameters, but you have the note off velocity as well. And
Okay.
for the first one, obviously there's the polyphonic aftertouch. The second one is the ribbon. So there's the slide one horizontally, and well, but that's a kind of a compensation because the ribbon is obviously a monophonic slide. So you can see what I did in the video. Actually, I recorded that in and then started to modify note by note. So you can individually edit that slide action. So that's a good thing that we have such protocol nowadays that when the hardware supported, you record it in to software. You can edit the software there.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
well, the third dimension is the vertical one, and the vertical one you can, well, in the series of the videos that you shown in the couple other, there's another video that's showing that you can use a MP controller to control the Hydrasynth. With that, you can map the vertical movement to mod matrix to certain parameters, but that's not possible with the keypad, obviously. So on the keypad, you can do the pressure. With the ribbon, you can do the horizontal. But with vertical movement, you can use another MPE controller to do that, to achieve it.
Okay, I understand now. And of course, note off. Yeah, I use note off, not frequently, but I use note off in some of my sound design, because as a live performer, note off or key off is an action. So
Indeed.
yeah, I've done it, like modulate a sound on key off. I've done that quite a few times, and my viewers know this. So I'm very into live performance type techniques, or some people call it, for a long time now, extended synth techniques. So always curious about how an instrument is designed for live performance. And speaking of your ribbon controller, it's a 4-octave ribbon controller according to the specs. While I'm at 4 octaves, do you make a longer keyboard, or for 3.5, 4 octaves is what you've got typically?
Well, we have 3 models of keyboard versions. So that's original keyboard versions with 4 octaves, and that ribbon spans all over the 4 octaves. But there's the deluxe version, and we have 6 octaves, but with the same length of the ribbon.
Oh, okay,
So
very good.
the last one is the small one, the Explorers. There's no space for a ribbon. We have to make it compact and portable.
Oh, there you go, everyone. If you're interested in one of those models, you know what to ask for and look for in the store. So, alternative controllers such as the ribbon controller has been very popular for decades. Early synths such as the Moog Liberation, the Yamaha CS80, even the Arturia Micro Freak, and the Kurzweils. And I own a couple of Kurzweils before, and I love Kurzweils a lot. They had ribbon controllers as well, and that you could do a lot on the Kurzweils with the ribbon controller because they packed a lot of power in the Kurzweils. But Hydrasynth's ribbon controller is programmable to behave like a typical ribbon controller, so you could do glissandos, discrete notes, pitch bends. Who was it who wanted a ribbon controller in the group? Someone said, I gotta have a ribbon controller. Who was the person?
That was Glenn.
Oh. Yes, I'm glad he made that decision.
Yeah, me too. It's fun to play with.
And I know that there are other functions of your ribbon controller that are handy to users. So I named 3. I thought I'd let you advise us as to what other things you could do with your ribbon controller.
So you're gonna mention the 3 features, or?
Oh, I mentioned the 3. I said, it's a continuous glide as typical ribbon controller. You could play discrete notes, so you could, pitch bend naturally because it's a continuous controller, so you could do pitch bend that way. But on your website, I saw several other functions you could use. the ribbon controller for. So I thought
Yep.
I'd let you.
There are basically 3 modes. So we have the theremin mode, we have the pitch bend mode that you mentioned already, and the last mode is mod only. So actually, no matter which mode you're in, you can map the ribbon to control any parameters within the mod matrix. So say I can map it to control filter cutoff and ratio control of a FM in mutant module at the same time. So you can just create all the modulations within mod matrix. And the good thing about having a dedicated mod only mode that allows you to not do pitch bend nor theremin when you're doing the modulation, but also the fact that you can do both at the same time. So you can play theremin and drag it up and down, and also modulating a parameter or a couple of or tons of parameters at the same time. And there's also another extra feature that you can use the ribbon to trigger envelopes. So you can even have a note played and then trigger that particular envelope or multiple envelopes. So these are small things that I think can really level up your playing or sound design or like performance. I like to do like a lot of things in performance. I mean, of course, there's a balance. You can't do too many things because things could go wrong. But that's a fun. That would be fun if you have a lot to play with. I mean, you have so many possibilities that you can work on. So every time you perform the kind of the same set list, you have different outcome. So maybe this take I played more with that part, or that take I dived more in the macros, something like that.
Thanks for that explanation and that list of what you could do. And that's what's so cool about alternative controllers, isn't it? Their role is to be a controller, so you can assign anything, assignable controllers. You can assign any parameter of the sound or performance requirements to just one controller if you have to. So the sky is the limit, everyone. So thanks for those ideas. I wanted to kind of like maybe just mention a few of the software features. And I read the specs, of course, and the Hydrasynth has 290 single cycle waveforms for the user, with 2 able to tap into what you call wave morphing. And again, you said earlier on, like some people have commented on how this reminds them of some other feature from another synth. This reminds them of some other feature from another synth. And because we had, someone who worked on vector synthesis recently on Music and Chat, so I was thinking wave morphing reminded me of vector synthesis in this case. Could you perhaps explain to our viewers what wave morphing is in an example that you might execute?
Oh, sure. Well, we had the reference from PPG Wave, and there were wavetable synthesis that you placed in waveforms in each slots, but they might not do the smooth interpolation between waveforms. So what we did was we opened up 8 slots, and each slot can load up a waveform or even silence. Then you can gradually morph between each of the waveforms between 8 waveforms. And that allows you to create new interesting waveforms between those. So you have to select, maybe I want to have a morph of this particular waveform, and I want the harmonics of that waveform, and then I can try to blend it to a point that I like it. So you kind of create new waveforms in the oscillators part like that. And well, so technically we have 219 waveforms, but with that interpolation, you can create much more. And the silence was an interesting one. So you can even use that wave scan to do rhythmic stuff. So sometimes there's sound, sometimes there's silence, and you can scan it through and create interesting stuff. Say with LFO, sample and hold, or a stepping LFO that you created to create a controllable rhythm.
Oh, so if you lay out the 8 waveforms, does it have to go through the whole lot as a loop and return, or can you ping pong them, or can you select, when it goes first pass, all of them, second pass, only odd numbers, that kind of thing? I don't know. Just wondering since I'm not used to it.
That's a good question. In fact, our RFO has multiple modes, and of course there's sine, triangle, and square, and pulse. So you can choose them to taste to fulfill what you mentioned. Like if you want a ping pong, you select a sine wave, and then make sure that modulation point started from the center of that wave list, and then you scan it back and forth. Or you can do stepping. You can create your own stepping RFO with up to 64 steps. Just do your own stepping and listen to the result of it. If any audiences checked out my video of using only one patch to do a whole track of song on the Hydrasynth Explorer, would know that I heavily use the RFO steps to do the kind of sequencing and melodic movement with them. So the possibilities with this are kind of endless. So if you map them back to the wave scan, you can do controllable expected rhythm with the wave scan, or a gradual movement for ambient sounds, or well, even just do a sample and hold, like locked to the BPM, and then you can get interesting results of the sounds ever changing.
A good old sample and hold. Yes, one of my favorites.
Me too.
Cool. And I spy the modulation matrix, and my viewers know that I love me some modulation. I use modulation a lot, but talk to us about your modulation matrix, please.
Sure. We have 32 slots to place modulations in, so you can do up to 32 modulations. But actually, you can do more than that because we have macros. Macros allows you to do a lot with a single knob movement, like what I did in the jam at the beginning. So I can map up to 8 parameters with each single knob, and you have 8 knobs of slots for each patch. And even the macros are modulatable. So you can, what I suggest, like in the MPE series of videos, it's a good starting point to map MPE dimension to a existing patch macro. So usually the patches macro are already pre-programmed with interesting results, so you can map them to the macros. So if that macro controls a parameter polyphonically, that immediately translates your polyphonic aftertouch playing to that macro polyphonically.
Yep. Sorry, Dominic.
Sorry. It's just I want to say that mod matrix and macros can work like seamlessly together, and how you program them. And back to the mod matrix, you have 35 modulation sources and 191 modulation destinations, and arpeggiators can be modulated as well, like I mentioned before, and even the CV outputs, or introduce the CV modulation inputs with your Eurorack and MIDI CCs, and so many possibilities. And one really important thing that came with the mod matrix was the immediacy of it is important. So like when I'm in the sound designing creative process, I think of a few things that I want to create. I want to do that immediately, else I will forget. And so we have the signal flow that I can hold the mod source button and then press the mod dest module, and the mapping is created immediately. So that won't get in your way, but helps you to create everything immediately.
Wow. Gee, I think I might need to go look for one. But at this point where you mentioned, some of the tweaks that you did in your improv program piece that you played for us so wonderfully, perhaps we should look at a quick view of how you constructed it. You offered something like that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay, let's go back to your screen with just you and your Hydrasynth. Let's do it.
Sure. Well, in fact, most of the sounds I used, I think all of the sounds I used are from the factory banks. And except for one that I actually used the random button to kind of generate it. So we have random button that have two main features. One is to completely randomly generate the patch, but well, within kind of a reasonable range, because there are some ranges that doesn't make sense. So we try to narrow that down. But still, there are some times that you might get silence.
Okay.
But you can actually get interesting results or inspiration from it. But the other feature is to hold shift and press random, you get patch random, and you can have the engine to grab parameters from all the patches within the Hydrasynth randomly. So say I take the filter part from patch A, and I take the mutant part from patch B, I take the oscillators from patch C, and like mixing things up that can translate into interesting results. So there was one sound that I used, it was created by this patch random. The other parts are all factory patches, and I tend to like have a structure first to think of what sounds I use and try to lay them out, and within that frame I'll try to do improv within that structure. So that's also what I did with the previous ASM videos in those promos, like the demonstrations. I also programmed them with Ableton Live, and well, Ableton Live 11 is supporting MPE right now and polyphonic aftertouch editing right now, so everything can be seen on the screen. It is really handy. So
Yeah.
So I can even view what I recorded. Usually I record both MIDI and audio, so even in my production I do that as well. That would be handy, and of course make sure you write down which program you used. We have over 1,000 slots, so there are some times that that sounds great, and I recorded audio, and wait, which patch was it? Well, of course, not just the Hydrasynth, even with other synthesizers. If you want to recall, you got to write that down.
Boy, you put me to shame. I don't even write anything down. And at the end of the day, I go, oh, well.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone's approach is different. I kind of like, I'm also a fan of like a one-take thing. So, okay, this time I'm going to try to play when I'm exploring that part of, whatever synthesizers or musical instruments. I'm going to explore that, and you might get interesting, fresh stuff from yourself that you didn't imagine you would come up with. And allowing certain space in performing is a fun thing, I think. And even in performance, I tend to do different things in different gigs. Like even I have the same set of tracks, I'll try to do different approaches. Or this time, I have more space to improv. Or that one is more of a programmed part, and I will try to play more on the keys, something like that. And so having things not pre-programmed is fun as well.
There you go. Thanks very much for that show and tell, Dominic. I'm gonna go back to your main cam.
Okay. You're back.
So speaking, I'm gonna jump to, because you're talking about live performance, and I'm gonna jump to the band that you have with your wife Pion. It's called Polypumpkins, and I have two pictures that you sent me of the band. One is a publicity shot, obviously. Very nice one. There's Pion.
Thank you.
And here's one of the two of them at a gig. Give us a quick idea of the band and places you play and opportunities that you look for as a band playing the genre that you play.
Cool. Well, recently we're having gigs in Hong Kong and in mainland China, and I love bringing a lot of synthesizers with me when it is possible, but we'll have to carry so much, a bit too much. Well, but that's the fun to plan things out. So I think the beauty of it is every time you have different venues, different theme of gigs, you can try to think what I want to play, what I want to show in the performance. Like I want to do a lot of synthesizers tweak or more of the keys playing, or more like the playing of our existing pieces. It depends, and well, that's an enjoyable thing as well to do different things in every different gigs. But as you can see in the picture, we brought a lot of synthesizers, and I used to Ableton push to sequence and do live playing and tweak and stuff. And thankfully we have the MIDI protocol, and we can do program changes and certain parts sequenced to a synthesizer, so I can focus on the sound designing part and then playing solo on the other keys, and sometimes it is swapped. I'm playing on that key instead and using that to do live sound tweaking. And well, it's about a balance, so you can't have everything like freely open. Things could mess up. So the balance comes with experiences. But yeah, I love retaining a certain room for us to improv and to freely express like that with synthesizers. And currently we're more focused on doing synthwave and chill out music, but I'm open to doing more like energetic, techno-y stuff and trying to, well, it's interesting to realize that you tend to get different results from different musical instruments. So like with your rack with certain sequencers, I can get more techno stuff easily. But of course, I play ambient stuff with it as well. And well, same for the Hydrasynth. Actually, I did techno stuff on it. I did ambient stuff on it. It's about how you interact with musical instruments.
Your wife Pion jumped in the live chat and said hello. She goes, "Hello, everyone."
Oh,
Hi,
cool.
Pion. So, for yourself personally, as a composer and a performer, where or what do you feel has not yet been addressed?
Well, hopefully MIDI 2.0 can fix some things, like making the interactivity even more smooth to handle. I mean, handling so many technical stuff is not fun. Like we have the 3.5 millimeter MIDI TRS cables with different standards. Wow, it's just it introduces more risk. So hopefully things can get more consistent over the time, and different musical instruments can talk to each other easier.
MIDI 2.0, yes. I've been waiting for interesting implementation of 2.0 in synths out there, and I'm still keeping an eagle eye out. I'm very careful with what I acquire synth-wise because I don't have much space in my mom's apartment, and I travel between here and the States, so it's got to be something really special for me to spend a penny on it and for me to lug it back and forth. So I'll be keen to see what comes up relatively soon with 2.0 implementation. And
Me too.
speaking of, I'm sorry, Dominic.
Sorry, just saying me too. Looking forward to it.
So in terms of musical instrument and 2.0 representation and all that, I got a picture that you sent me of your local Hong Kong dealer media box, which looks after and is very proud, I believe, of the Hydrasynth, obviously. Hometown boy, gal, family.
Indeed.
So I got a picture that you sent me, a media box. If anyone can spot the Hydrasynth, you win a clap.
It takes some time.
Yeah. So how would you describe the scene in Hong Kong for synthesizers, you think?
Well, Hong Kong is a small place, and how to say? I know there are a lot of bands out there, and people tend to use synthesizers as a sound module, more like playing the existing patches instead of sound designing. So for them, the consideration is portability and how many banks of patches it come with, and how much of the sounds that cover what they wanted, like pop band, rock band, more of those. And of course, we have electronic bands as well, and only for that small community, they would invest more in synthesizers. Because in Hong Kong, this place is small, and residence properties are expensive, and you don't have that much space to have many synthesizers. So
Like Singapore.
I built it upwards. I have
Oh
to
yeah,
step everything up.
outwards, yeah. That's true. There are so many brands of synthesizers from around the world. How did you decide to position the Hydrasynth for its launch? How did you think was the best way to sell it, to position it? Because I'm telling you this, and I think I mentioned it before we jumped on the live stream, that there are people I spoke to who knew of the Hydrasynth but did not realize it's a regional product.
A regional product? What do you mean?
As in, it's from Hong Kong, as in our region.
Oh, cool. Well, it's kind of ambitious to like plant it to fulfill both performers and sound designers at the same time, I think. And at first we released the 49 key original keyboard version and the desktop version. So we hopefully cater to both professional musicians, like touring musicians, even like producers in studios, and like modular players as well. So these two models can fulfill it. Like you have standard keys, so if you know how to play keys, you can make use of the polyphonic aftertouch quite soon. The learning curve is not really that steep, I think. For the desktop, we have the pads. So the idea was there are quite a number of racked synthesizers out there before, but not that many have the ability to play on it. So you must hook up a MIDI controller to play it. So we thought maybe it would be more handy if we do an interface to play on it. So we added the grid of pads there, allowing you to at least listen to what you're working on. Like you can latch the note and then do sound design, or do a complete 1 hour ambient set with it.
That would be very indulgent. A whole hour, wow.
Oh, well, our LFO and envelope can go really slow, and you can like modulate envelope with LFO, or envelope modulating other LFO, modulating LFO. And envelope can act as LFO, LFO can act as envelope. I mean, so many possibilities to play with.
So 1 hour is actually too short.
Yeah, and well, we added CV capability, so you can hook up with even vintage modular stuff, vintage synth keys to say like you do a particular stepping LFO to modulate a vintage synth, mono synth that takes CV as input. And obviously you can play with Euroracks. And yeah, that's what we see. There are quite a number of Eurorack players that own the desktop. So we're glad to see that. And later we thought that, okay, some touring musicians want a bigger keyboard, so we extended it and released the Hydrasynth Deluxe. And it doubled the engine, so the original has 8 voices. Now with the Deluxe there are 16 voices, and you can do layers and split or velocity layers as well.
Wow, nice.
And
so you said that you've seen this type of behavior. Are you talking about locally, or are they reports from any particular country that has more owners of Hydrasynths than other countries? Where do you find primarily your customers? I guess you would hear this from dealers and distributors, naturally.
Primarily, I think we focused on the US and Europe market first, and then later we come back
Because
to the Hong Kong,
it's a
China.
small market, isn't it? Hong Kong, like Singapore, you know, like once you're sold to 1/4 of the population, you need to look somewhere else, kind of thing.
Yeah, the focus was you gotta go towards the bigger market first. Then we can talk about expanding and hopefully more coverage to different countries. Of course, we love seeing it being used by more different people from all over the world. But the first step was the US because we released in NotCon as well.
Oh yes, of course, yes. NopCon. I'm always curious, you know, about local reception to local products, and I believe very much in support local business. So this question is kind of aimed at that. Have you noticed any particular ways in which the local synth enthusiasts select your brand from other brands with longer histories?
Well, it is kind of typical and normal for people to choose bigger brands because they know there's history of it or they had experience with them that's trustable already. But yeah, ASM being a local brand, and when people know about that, it was kind of co-designed also in Hong Kong as well. And they're like, well, we're glad that there's one in Hong Kong. And yeah, people love that and would really consider that over other big brands since. But of course, feature-wise, it is also rich as well. So a lot of considerations. Yeah.
Thank you for that honest answer. I love the Hydrasynth already from what I've seen. I need to go to music store and play with it. I have two
Cool.
questions from our friend Gary from Frederick, Maryland in USA, a good friend of mine. First one is about, you know, the features of the Hydrasynth, and I'll read it to you. Dominic, did you run into any issues with proprietary information as you developed the features of the Hydrasynth? So that's his first question.
Like what propriety? I mean, what aspect?
Gary, would you like to expand on that? And while he expands on that, because I don't want to put words in his mouth, I will ask his second question. He was interested in Polypumpkins. Will you be recording, releasing any live or studio recordings?
Oh yeah, sure. We do single releases from time to time. Hopefully we want to do album release, but that takes a lot of effort. And at the same time, we're producing products as well, and I'm kind of busy. So well, gradually we're productive as well. We keep releasing pieces that well, I mean, I really love exploring on synthesizers and musical instruments. It's interesting that the musical instrument might lead you to create something that it was not in your mind, but wow.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about synthesizers is the history and story behind them. I like to learn about them. Like before I do synthesizers, I play with many other vintage and modern synthesizers and appreciate that. Wow, that was smart and oh, that story was awesome. And then you play, just it feels like full of story, and you tell story with the music, and that's what I love with it.
Yeah, I hear you. It's when I talk to people like you that I get even more inspired, if not already inspired, but beyond inspired, even more motivated. And then I wish I had a room full of synthesizers too. But I started going, you know, software based because of all the traveling, and it was much easier to just carry one or two items with laptop so that I can replicate, you know, my performance setup in another country than try and move,
Yeah,
trying to
makes
ship
perfect
a whole
sense.
studio.
Software nowadays are really great.
Yeah, I have to say, but there's nothing like having a piece, you know, a really good synth that you enjoy to use, and like you said, you know, where you discover new things as you play with them on a daily, or you know, as often as you can. That's what I really like. One day I will have a new piece when the dust has settled. Speaking of dust settling, we've had really crazy weather in Singapore, and I guess you're experiencing the same in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, like Singapore, we quite similar in the kind of like cultural expectations, the geographical and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if I'm using the right word, but Hong Kong and Singapore is a melting pot of cultures, I guess you can say. So, what might you say the local music community hopes to be more recognized for? Because we're small. We're small, but we're strong, and we also want to be represented out there. We want to be recognized for our work. So, if you have a pulse on the local music community, if you do, what do you hope the community hopes to be recognized for?
I love to see variety in music and acceptance in more genres. People, audience that accept more interesting genres and not, have a wider vision of it. well, I'm not that familiar with the music scene in Hong Kong, but just from what I had contact with.
I was curious because I know there's a strong synth community, but there's also a strong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's canto pop kind of scene, and of course the pop stuff always is the one that people are aware of. But it's like when I'm based in Nashville, people think, oh, country music, but Nashville is not just country music. There's a huge jazz community, there's a brilliant symphony orchestra, and there's also a electronic music community, and so on and so forth. But the country music seems to be the one that always gets the news, and so people just assume that that's all you find. But these other communities also want some recognition for the work that they bring, not just to the community, but out there in the industry. So that's why I asked.
I see.
Our friend from Sydney, Australia, Sam, originally from Hong Kong, I think. I'm gonna put his comment in the stream. He says, I'm from 1980s. Can you import stuff like from a Fairlight? I came late, so apologies if this has been answered. I'm not quite sure what you mean, Sam. Can you import stuff like the Fairlight? You mean into Hong Kong?
I think he mean importing waveforms.
Oh!
So on the Hydrasynth, you can't import waveforms, but you can create, like I mentioned earlier, like with a combination of waveforms into the wave list and create wave scan, and the interpolation is in very high resolution, so you can do that like what I mentioned. You can have the basis of that waveform A, and then you want certain harmonics from waveform B, and then you put them to slot 1 and 2, and then you do the wave scan in between, and you can use the mutants to further shape them to the way you like. So there are a lot of flexibilities with them already, actually. So you can try to come up with your own waveforms instead of using existing ones.
There you go, Sam. Thanks, Dominic. Because I was talking about, the music scene, so that was what was on my mind. But yes, you're very right. He's probably wanting to know Fairlight waveforms. Thanks for answering that. Anyone else with questions? Sam said, awesome. Yeah, so you obviously interpreted his question as he meant it to be. And yeah, our good friend Mike as well. I'll put his comment in because it's quite fun to hear what everyone's going to say. My introduction to synth was Tonto's expanding headband, and we're familiar with that, of course, and we've seen it. I think we haven't quite seen Cecil's personality so much tied to Tonto as we've seen Stevie Wonder's personality tied to Tonto. I think Stevie, I don't remember which album of his I think was worked on with the huge room full of synthesizers. Mike, let me know if I'm right or wrong. And any questions from the viewers, please put it in the live chat as we come towards the end of our stream. And Dominic's been very patient with us and very helpful and obliging. And you know, I hope he didn't mind my curiosity about the synth community and all that. That's why I asked those questions, because I haven't been to Hong Kong in a long, long time. I
You
don't
should come
know.
visit us.
Yeah, I will come visit you. I will. So the scene is like totally new to me in my head because I haven't been there and experienced it personally. So my last visit there was when I was still working in the multimedia industry, and I was there to visit our dealers and distributors, and there was a Hong Kong trade show. I don't remember the name of the trade show, but yes, I will. We'll have to. We, as in the viewers of Music and Chat, will have to accompany me to Hong Kong one day, and I'll do a stream from Hong Kong. I'll visit
Ooh.
Dominic. That would be fun.
Awesome.
I think. And we can stream from your office or your home studio, wherever you
Sure.
want it to be, and we can take our viewers on a stroll of the music shopping district or whatever to show our
Synth shopping.
viewers. Yeah, exactly, to show our viewers what it's like for the synth community in Hong Kong, if they want to buy something, where they get it from, and basically the atmosphere. That would be nice.
Yeah, sure.
So, questions, guys, in the live stream? Well, I asked my last one for Dominic. I think I have my last one here. Yes. It's about the future. It's not about the future. It's more like I dug up this interview with your CEO, Glenn, and it was around the time that the Hydrasynth was launched in 2019. And it was an interview with Perfect Circuit online magazine. And he said, our main goal is to make not just gear products, but musical instruments that help people express themselves and can have some lasting quality to them. If we can bring something that gives someone a new idea and makes them want to spend time making music, then we succeeded. So, fast forward to 2003. In the evolution of synth design, because that's what we're always aiming for, whether it's via hardware or software, where do you think we should head next? If you had a chance to, like, it doesn't really matter. If you need engineers, we'll give you engineers. Money, no question. As a member of the synth designing community, where do you think we should head to next? Not could, but should.
Should. It's hard to say. Well, I'm glad that there are different sizes of manufacturers out there designing synthesizers. In fact, even the small ones, they do a lot of interesting stuff, and that's what I like about your racks. I can get a lot of inspiration from them, like creating music. And I think as the processing power gets stronger and stronger nowadays, I believe that digital synthesizers can do more and more as well. And with that in mind, the UI design and intuitiveness is still very important and not being overlooked. I think it is very important to have designers that use the products themselves to design products, because in whatever industry, there are always designers who design products but they don't use themselves. That could be problematic. And I think especially for musical instruments, you really have to know about what you do and why they have to be done like that to make decisions, because when you're doing products, you have to make a lot of decisions. And well, having said that, and with the very deep engines coming in the future, we can imagine, and the UI has to deliver well without too many manual divings. That's what I hope personally. But well, frankly speaking, there are manual diving products that I love as well. There's nothing wrong with it. They sound
Like
good,
this thick?
and they're like sequencing features were that good. Or in various thickness, not specific ones. So I very much agree with Glenn. I'm really glad to see famous musicians and people that we admire using our synthesizers. And that's just so awesome.
Thanks, Dominic. Any questions from the live viewers? I mean, I don't mean you're not live viewers, but you know what I mean. Any questions from you guys? I see some information that is offered. Some more from Mike as well. Mike's lived everywhere, Mike Brandt. He's from the UK. He lived in the US, New Zealand. Where else have you lived in, Mike? But and he also worked with Todd Rundgren at one stage, so he knows his knowledge.
I think Two Sticks talked about proprietary information.
Yeah, that's the question. Oh,
Is it about IPs? Well, when we were developing Hydrasynth, we have tributes to many vintage synthesizers, but we don't step on others' toes. Well, that's that's the thing. So well, the wave scan, the wave table, we have there's a tribute to PPG Wave and the polyphonic aftertouch. Like I mentioned earlier, I played with the Prophet T8 and I tried to get the touching happen on our own keypad. And well, that for the wheels on the keyboard version, the deluxe version, there's a tribute to vintage EMI consoles, like their inverted faders.
oh wow.
And for the buttons, for the keyboards and deluxe and desktop versions, there's a hard cap on each of the pads that make them feel like hard buttons. Those are kind of like inspiration from old consoles. The touching from them moved here. And of course, a lot of inspirations came from Eurorax and stuff. You get inspired from playing with other musical instruments.
There you go, Gary. Gary's behind the moniker Two Sticks. Did that answer your question? I hope so. Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, we gain inspiration from the things that we use, the knowledge from our experience, from our journeys and all that. So it's kind of interesting how, and it's always such a pleasure to know that you or something that you made have inspired someone else to take the next step, which is my last question really, because everyone is in a similar pool of synth designers. If Dominic would be the one to spearhead the next design, what should he be aiming for? So I think it's kind of cool in the creator community that everyone is always so supportive of each other. No one kind of has fights with each other over who's stolen what. I haven't heard of one at least, but I have heard of stories of how supportive everyone is. So we'd like to continue to support Dominic and Ashun Sound Machines.
Thank you.
And look forward to the next synth. And I know everything's still under wraps, so we won't ask him. But if there are no questions left, we want to thank Dominic.
Oh, thank you, Shueh-li, for inviting. It's my great pleasure to be here. Interesting talk as well.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure. I've learned a lot from just chatting with you, and we hope that you have totally and utterly enjoyed the live stream, and that you have exciting projects ahead, and of course to stay safe I want to say the same to our viewers. You've been awesome too, and please, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so you would be alerted to more episodes of Music and Chat. And the next one is actually going to be in 3 days, which will be our first broadcast of Music and Chat Expose, the new album segment of Music and Chat. So Dominic, if you're going to
Cool.
release a new single or album, let us know as well, and we'll have another chat.
Awesome.
And the band that we will expose in 3 days is prog rock duo Xenosync, who will talk about the album 4.8, which they describe as a music sync journey. So this will be on the 17th December, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 18th December, 9:30 a.m. Singapore time. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish Dominic and Pion and everyone at Ashun Sound Machines and all my viewers Merry Christmas and Happy New Year as well, or season's greetings, or happy holidays, all that. All the good stuff.
Yep. Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Dominic. So I'm gonna roll the credits, as you would say, but don't go, get off Skype yet. I want to say goodbye proper. So thanks again, everyone. I'll see you soon, and here's the end roll.